Julien, it's amazing to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we're here.
Awesome. Okay, let's dive right in. So today's topic is around proving the impact of messaging. So help me create some context for our listeners here. Let's diagnose the problem a little bit. Why is it so hard for PMMs to prove impact?
I think it is hard to prove impact because there's a lot of different choices that PMMs can have, right? In terms of like where they can prove the impact. When you think about it, PMM really spans across all the different, stages of the funnel. And you can have impact at the top of the pre-funnel with like awareness type metrics. You can have, of course, impact at the top of the funnel. You can help sales accelerate their deals. You can even help CS with product adoption. Like this, just like the menu is so vast. And I think because of that, that's a challenge because PMMs tend to, be very cross-functional and they want to please many stakeholders, and as such, they can't pick the one metric. And so my advice is always pick one metric of that menu of like 10 metrics. All of them look yummy, but you got to pick that one entree or that one dessert, and that's going to be where you're going to build your plan around. That's going to become your raison d'être, if you will, and that'll help you basically understand where to start and stop and how to better explain what you're doing to your stakeholders. So picking one metric is everything.
Yeah, it's a bit more manageable too.
It's also less work for sure. Or you can go a little deeper and then you can expand. But yeah, I'm big on like picking that one metric. That's the best way to clarify what we're doing to everybody else.
Yeah. And you've clearly throughout your career have had multiple examples of excellent product marketing and proving value for PMMs. But for today's conversation, I want to focus on one particular example and really, I think, where it all started. So specifically around influencing revenue. So for the first segment of our show, I want to start with a case study on how you approached this when you became the VP of product marketing at Gong. And then I want to take that experience and fast forward into your career now at Cordial and see how maybe your team at Cordial is using the same playbook, how it's evolved over time. So I guess take me back to when it all started. Like what was going on at Gong when you set out to create that measurable impact and how you decided you wanted to measure the narrative that was influencing sales?
Yeah, so it was back in 2021. So it's been a while now, but I always like talking about that example because Gong was a big brand, still is, but was really an upcoming and bigger brand back then. And I think some of that work kind of helped shape what the brand had become. So back then, mid 2021, if I recall, we were kind of like combining a rebrand with a new narrative. And the visual brand is still what it is today, by the way. So the new narrative was, I think it was a little bigger and bolder than what we had before, a little more enterprise ready as well. It was differentiated. But then, of course, the question is always from sales is, cool PMM, how is this actually helping me win deals and win them faster and win bigger deals, right? And so at the time, there was no real credible way of proving that. Yes, we would have content management systems and whatnot to like track adoption of your sales deck, but those are just vanity metrics. Like they don't really prove any correlation with revenue. And so the task I had at hand with my team and my PMMs was to basically build a bit of a simple yet repeatable method using Gong itself, so Gong on Gong, and of course all the revenue data stored in CRM to basically determine whether reps using the new narrative were actually closing more deals faster, right? And so the action that we took then was we kind of created that playbook, if you will. We started building what Gong was calling at the time, I think it still is called that trackers. Some of them are a little smarter than others, a little bit of AI there. But like basically you encapsulate the essence of your POV and your positioning into a set of keywords and expressions. Then we would set up these in Gong, and basically we would be able to track, how the reps are using these, and then kind of split the whole Salesforce into two groups, those heavily using the new narrative and those who weren't. And then what you do is basically you correlate, adoption of that new messaging with downstream sales metrics. And that's what we did. And I think we could establish a clear correlation. Reps consistently using the new messaging were able to close more deals or to move through the stages of the cycle a little faster. And that's everything you need as a PMM, right? It's less how many assets and how beautiful they are you've produced. And it's more like, hey, there's tangible proof now that when you're using the new messaging, you basically end up closing more deals. Who doesn't want that?
Absolutely. Okay, so there's two things that I really love about this. The first is that it's like a super repeatable system that you and your team built. The second, and I think I mentioned this before ahead of this recording as we were preparing for this podcast episode, is that I feel so silly that as a PMM who has used Gong and other sales recording platforms, I never thought of taking the sales team and putting them into two groups. One group with the messaging, the new messaging or whatever narrative we're using, and one without, and seeing which one is performing better. And it's a classic experiment that I wish I would have thought of. It's so, it's a really strong way to really prove that it's actually working versus, as you pointed out earlier, just leaning into like vanity metrics. So I love that. It was really clever.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say you don't need, it doesn't have to be Gong. You can do that with Clari. You can do that with probably like the Fathoms and the whatever.
There's so many out there.
There's like 1,000 tools right now. So you kind of pick the one you want and then you track adoption and impact of your POV over one of these apps.
Yeah. And I personally have experience in my career, and I've heard other product marketing leaders as well say that the more you experiment and run experiments like this, the better that you get in your job. You become a more high performing marketer. So just a little pro tip for anyone listening, run more experiments.
Exactly. Yep.
Now let's take your case study in this story, and let's say that I wanted to try to replicate it in my role today. Where would I get started as a PMM, inspired by this case study? What would be step one?
Yeah, I think step one is pick the metric you want to own or you want to influence. A little bit back to what we just said, right? The playbook you're going to build using the Gong track or the whatever trackers and all of that, you need to know what success would look like. And so is it stage 1 conversion to stage 2, or is it ASP, average selling price, or is it actual closed won revenue, competitive win rates? I don't know, but I would assume that you really need to know the one metric you want to influence with your approach and your playbook. So that's the step one.
Yeah, of course. And I would imagine that whatever metric you pick, it's going to be different for every business depending on what your business priorities are. And then likewise, whatever tools you have access to. So
yeah, there's a reason why you are shipping this new positioning at this point, right? And so it's kind of back to first principles in a way, why did we even do this in the first place? Maybe we're selling a lot of deals, but the deal amount, the deal size isn't big enough. Well, if that's the reason why that new POV was shipped, then use that as, the criteria for you.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, that's helpful. Okay. So then at what step 2 after I get the metric down?
Yeah, step 2 is kind of all the pre-measurement groundwork. You actually need to develop your message, right? And so as we know, there's plenty of frameworks to talk about this. This is not...
I feel like you could do another episode about just narrative building.
Just that. Yeah, for sure. But once you have that, you have your pitch, you have your POV, you have your narrative, you have the key phrases you would expect to show up in these real calls. And so typically you would, certify your go-to-market team on it. And now you have your trackers set up in Gong. So you're kind of ready for the next step, which is starting to measure stuff.
I love that. Okay. So I've got my metrics set up, and then I do other pre-work where I have the narrative built out. Then what's step 3?
Yeah, I would say step 3 is a little bit what I just mentioned, I would say the rollout of the positioning or of the messaging, right? The new deck, the new demo, the new whatever. We all know that one-off trainings are pretty much, useless. So it's all about repeating it, reinforcing it, getting people certified on it. As I said, you can make it fun. You can have prices and incentives and gamify it, and you have a leaderboard and you see who's doing a good job at taking the certification and whatnot. So everybody in tech and in sales in particular is competitive in nature. So I think you play off that to make sure people really are trained and like the new pitch is ingrained in how they think and speak.
Yeah. Yet another topic that we could do an entire episode on is sales enablement and sales training.
Yeah. So many things to talk about.
Yes. Okay. So we picked the metric, we've built the messaging, we enabled sales. What happens next?
Well, you got to start measuring, right? So sales now is like actually taking active calls with your clients, your customers, your prospects. So, depending on your, I guess, transactional volume of calls, then you need to wait until you have a critical mass of calls to be able to do a more robust analysis, but typically takes, a few days, few weeks, depending on your go-to-market and your ICP, I guess.
Yeah. And whatever metric, I would imagine whatever metric you choose too, right?
That's right. Yeah. If you choose more, that's a good point. If you choose more like downstream metrics, like win rates against competitor A, then you actually got to wait until a few cycles are complete, lost or won before you can actually measure that stuff for sure. But yeah, you measure, you have your trackers as I said in any of these apps. And as I said, you like organically, you can see who's heavily adopting the new POV and who's not. And then you kind of like define the median. And that's what creates that almost like A/B testing of reps, the heavy adopters and the one who aren't really using the new POV. Could be more than two, by the way. If you want to be fancy, I'm not. But like if you want to do like 4 or 5, whatever. But I would start small and simple.
Whatever makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. I do want to call out because I don't know if I mentioned it as I was kind of summarizing the steps. In the pre-training or pre-experiment, the part of your step 2 to actually create the trackers in whatever tool you're using to just make your life way less manual. Like there's probably even AI built into some of that. So yeah, definitely a piece that you wouldn't want to miss in some of that operational setup. Okay, so now that I have everything set up and I've now run my experiment, I'm assuming all these tools, Gong, Clari, whatever, probably also have some kind of like exporting report analysis that they can run. What happens once you get the analysis back or complete the analysis on the experiment?
Yeah, I would say that's a good point. The level of analytical views that you get pretty much highly depends on the app. Like certain apps are just better at providing reporting and dashboards out of the box, if you will. I remember back then at Gong 2021, the reporting wasn't as, comprehensive. And so we actually ended up exporting a lot of that data and then building, RevOps would own that, building some charts in basically in Excel to kind of like compare the group A and B. But I would say pick your reporting tool of choice. It could be inside the conversation intelligence app itself, or it could be outside. And then, you show the wins. You highlight the reps who adopted the message and who are crushing it on that one metric that you picked, step 1. And then you show the other ones. And, that's how you're going to close the loop by showing how the message ties back to the metric you initially picked and set. So in our example, if you said, I need to close bigger deals, but I'm like my close rates are great, I just need bigger deals, then that's the one metric. And then hopefully group A, the heavy adopters, their average selling price on average is higher than the one of group B. And that's enough proof, right?
I would guess that your stakeholders would be really excited to see that kind of result. Also, the team that's in the camp using old message with a lower deal size is probably a little bummed that they didn't get the bigger.
Well, they know what to do, and they need to they know that they need to embrace the new message and hop on that train. So it lifts everybody's boats in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure this probably changes a little bit based on what metric you're using. But I guess if we're talking about impacting revenue, it will absolutely include sales or some kind of sales leader. But can you just quickly give some examples of good stakeholders to use as you're doing a feedback loop?
Yeah, as you said, I think it is highly dependent on the metric you picked. If it's relevant to more like net new logos and net new business, then sales is going to be there. Marketing is going to be there. If you're a P&G company and you want to impact how you want to measure how your narrative is impacting product adoption or product utilization, then you're going to have PMs and even eng and product in the room. So it kind of depends. If your metric is NDR and NPS or churn rather, then CS would be in the room. So I would assume like pretty much all of go-to-market, including, product, would kind of be interested at least in that project.
Totally. Yeah. Any product manager is going to care about revenue, and any good product manager anyway.
The
Is going
good
to care
ones,
about
for sure.
the
Yeah.
good ones care. Yeah. They want to know all of that. Okay, cool. I think we actually got a little bit of ahead, but assuming there is a step 6, and that is the feedback loop that we kind of touched on already, but quickly walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah. Listen, no message is perfect ever, and it always changes with time. And what's top of mind for your buyer today might not be what's going to be top of mind for them in like 3 days or 3 months or 3 years, right? So it keeps changing. You always have to adapt. Typically, you don't change your like value propositions and your positioning statements as often because consistency is and repetition are key. But the actual messaging of it and the way you kind of like approach that and talk about your value can change over time. So that's the feedback loop. That's where typically the top reps would tell you, I really like this piece. I think this piece is a little weak. Or the group B would like tell you what's happening with their experience. And that's how you refine your assets, your POV, your messaging. You made these updates and, you keep shipping and they keep using what you're shipping. So it's kind of like a flywheel, if you will, or a new cycle that starts all over again.
Yeah, and it helps build trust with your stakeholders when they see their feedback, obviously reflected in the messaging too.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. The messaging is never an ivory tower type of thing. It's always like you're in the trenches working, baking the cake, as we say, with reps for sure.
Yep. Okay, so let's fast forward now to what life looks like at Cordial. Like, where do you see this playbook show up, and how has it evolved since its inception back in 2021?
Yeah, I would say it's been refined over time. Like this, what I just explained was very much like the V1, if you will, and we're talking 4 years ago, or been more than that, 4.5 years ago, right? Like one thing that I remember we were not really thinking about was naturally the top performing reps are going to be adopting the new message if that's a good message. And so there's a bias there, and you cannot attribute them winning just to the message. It's also because of all the other stuff and their salesmanship and whatnot, if you will. So what we did then at the next company is kind of like introduce a bit of the time dimension, if you will, and know if with the new messaging, kind of do the before and after. Like, is there a delta over time between before and after for the for the top reps, as well as for the middle and the bottom reps, if you will. And then if you see that spike, or if you see that delta, then it's a better sign of, your messaging being working. So that's just one example of like a tweak that we added and we've adopted over time. Then there's way more. We used to like do exactly what I said, but we would do that on all the Gong calls. And yet you don't pitch your products all the time. So you need to like limit your calls to a certain subset. You need to include email as well. So there's like a lot of different tactics and details that I'm not going to bore you with. But I would say that playbook has been refined and robustified. I don't know if that's an English word, over the years for sure.
Yeah, and everyone should take a playbook and iterate on it, like make it your own, right? This is just kind of the bare bones, but what you do with it is really what you get out of it. So I love how scientific this is. So if I just very quickly recap the steps here, step 1 is try to figure out what that metric is that you want to use. Step 2, I think, was to actually build your narrative and to do some of that pre-work, right? The logistics, setting up your trackers.
Going to count for you so that I can keep track.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And then step 3 was to enable the sales team. Step 4 was to actually run the experiment and do the analysis. Step 5 is to do the share outs. And then step 6, I'm going to call step 6 the feedback, where we like you do the iterating on the messaging. Yay. Okay. It's actually really simple to do. It's so clever and scientific, and it really showcases a true measurable impact of narratives and messaging. So one last question for you before we move on to the next segment of the show. Any last advice you have for a PMM who's going to take this playbook and run with it?
I think you start simple. That's for sure. As I said, you pick that one metric. Only do 2 groups. You don't do the time thing, the delta over time. Like it's just too complex. I would say all of that stuff we just talked about, it's a sales metric, or it's more like a downstream revenue metric we picked. Maybe you're crushing things on revenue, but you need to go and explore a new, segment of the market or whatever. And what keeps your CEO up at night is awareness in the enterprise segment. I'm making that up. You're crushing your mid-market, down-market revenue numbers, but you have nothing up-market, and you're going to start at the top of the funnel. Then none of that stuff that I talked about is really going to apply, right? Like it still is more in the funnel. So my one advice would be, beyond everything we just discussed, Eddie, it's like, know what's top of mind for your CEO, what keeps him or her or them up at night, and then you insert yourself where it matters. That's how you build that trust, and that's how you show impact.
Yep. And so often I've seen really successful PMMs be really involved in business outcomes and, being close with executives and senior leaders around, okay, well, what are our shared, as a company, our shared, North Star metric that we're going to achieve together. So makes a lot of sense. All right. Now it's time for the next and final segment of our show, the messaging critique. This is so fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Get a little spicy.
Yes. For anyone who is new or hasn't heard the segment before, this is where we as product marketing experts get to analyze real world messaging. And the fun part is, Julien, as my guest, you get to choose the company that we look at. And before we get started, there's just 3 main rules or I guess guidelines for this. We're going to talk about what's working really well with the messaging, what's standing out in a positive way. We're going to talk about something that we wish the PMM would have done differently. And then we're going to iterate a little bit and maybe give some creative ideas to the PMM who's owning that product. All right. So Julien, tell us, reveal, what are we looking at today?
Yeah, I picked, when you and I were prepping for this, you told me the main thing was picking companies that you would be, using, right? Apps you would be using, or like a market you're really familiar with. Otherwise, it's just like, I'm not going to critique messaging for like whatever IT compliance app.
Totally. Yeah. I couldn't do like cybersecurity. It wouldn't be fair.
There you go. Exactly. You said it. I thought about it. Yeah. So right now, we are working like revamping a little bit at Cordial, revamping a little bit of our stack. And part of that is the intent platform, or the signals platform, if you will, as well as the data piece, the data enrichment, that is. So I picked 2 companies we're looking at, very different in style and in size. One of them is called UserGems, and the other one is called ZoomInfo. I'm sure you've heard of at least one of the 2. So UserGems and ZoomInfo.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of ZoomInfo. I actually, before you shared with me, I had never heard of UserGems. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more. So just for anyone who wants to follow along, I'm going to usergems.com. That's USERGEMS.com. So I guess, Julien, get us started with like, what do they do? And just tell us a little bit about their product.
Yeah, they have 2 products mainly. The one that, and I think we can spend a little bit of time on, well, we can spend time on like the whole pitch, but one of them is an AI agent, if you will, that basically builds lists, captures signals, scores your accounts and your contacts, and then writes some emails for, automated outreach. So in a nutshell, they automate your inbound motion.
It sounds a little too good to be true.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I haven't investigated that space in a while, so I'm sure there's been advancements there. So I'm guessing then their target audience would be like the marketing org, right?
Correct. Yeah, I would say growth marketers is like typically the user persona for them, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so what are you loving about their messaging? And I guess again with the caveat of like this is how they're presenting themselves on their website because that's what we have to go off of.
That's right. Yeah, that's such a good call out. Sometimes the messaging on the website, for good or bad reasons, isn't exactly the same you have in the sales deck. So we can only speak about public facing stuff. Yeah, I like their brand in general. And by the way, their CMO is a friend of mine. So like, and I will let her know that this is coming up, and I'm sure she'll find that very fun. But they have a bit of a mascot. It's called Gem E. So it goes with like user gem. And it's literally like a little robot. It's very cute.
I was going to say, is that the cute little robot?
That's right. Yeah, it's a cute little robot. And so they have Gem E doing both the AI outreach and the ABM thing. So it's cute. I like that, of course. But then I think in terms of like beyond the visuals and the brand experience, I think the message itself, at least on the homepage, I don't love. It's right now, it's the go-to-market command center and AI agents that you can trust. Go-to-market, repeat that again 3 times without, stepping over like the go-to-market command center with an AI agents that you can trust. So I don't know what that means. I really don't. And like every time I see command center, I see OS, I see all-in-one platform, and my eyes are just rolling over. It's become so overdone. It doesn't tell you anything.
I spent too many years in telecom, and I can't tell you how many telecom companies. I know, right? I can't tell you how many telecom companies use command center as like, and so yeah, like
it's so weird. It also sounds like military. So I don't know. It's just not for me.
I think you're hitting on something that actually comes up a lot in this segment, and it's really hard. So that's the other thing I think it's worth calling out. Messaging is so hard. We PMMs make it look easy, but it's really hard. A lot of testing, a lot of work goes into it. But my comment that I'm about to make comes up a lot in this segment, and that's to write human sounding messaging. And command center doesn't really, to me, sound super human just because that's just not how we naturally speak.
I agree. But again, I'm the data point of one French guy. So I might not even be like in their, like, cause I'm CMO and I'm not a growth marketer per se. So maybe they've tested it and maybe it works well for them. So, I mean, I'm not judging. I'm just giving everybody my one POV. That's all.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. So what are you loving about their messaging? Like what's working
I remember
really
it's
well?
not on the website, but I remember I think it was a thought leadership / data report that they had, and that I actually read, where they were talking about the AI adoption mirage. I don't even know how you say this thing in
mirage,
English.
Yeah.
Mirage,
yeah.
Mirage. Yeah. It's a French word, by the way.
I know.
AI adoption mirage, and I like that. I thought he was smart. It was a good problem statement, and right now there's no problem statement on the website, right? And so I kind of wish it was a little more, I'd say, prominent in their messaging on the website. It had legs, and I just wish it was there, and it's not just command center with AI you can trust, blah.
Yeah. So it sounds like and maybe this is too, who knows who's controlling the website. Sometimes PMMs don't get any say at all in what goes on the website.
Yeah.
But they clearly do have some selling the problem because they did it in that, thought leadership piece that you saw. So I guess we're kind of getting into it a little bit already, but if you're looking at how, like, something they could have considered differently or how they can, like, maybe some creative ideas to elevate their messaging, like, what are some thoughts and ideas you have?
I mean, that's going to be no surprise to anybody. I think they need to sell the problem before they can sell the solution. And so whether it's AI adoption mirage or something else, like, I want to hear what's the problem I'm solving for. I want to know why now, what's driving the urgency, how much money I'm leaving on the table today by not doing things the right way, blah, 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 blah. So really sell me the problem before you sell me the solution. That's the big piece. And then I would reconsider command center because that doesn't work for me, but it might not be their ICP again.
Right, totally. I really like that you called out the thought leadership piece. Because even as you're speaking, I've only spent as much time on, looking at UserGems as, what the last 4 or 5 minutes that we've been talking about them.
Yeah.
But it already is immediately resonating with me, and it's intriguing and makes me want to learn more.
Yeah.
Just as a marketer, right? Like
exactly.
So
I think a little teaser, a little word you haven't seen before, right? Like Mirage, I don't know. I haven't seen that word a whole lot in tech. And so I'm like, oh, that's intriguing. I'm gonna lean in and learn.
It is. Yeah. So I think maybe they have something there that's working really well. It's just maybe not reflected on the website yet. So
exactly.
Okay.
And I'll also say, like, their app kicks butt. Like, it's great. So we're criticizing, we're like nerding out you and I on messaging, not on actual product value.
100%. I should make that clear too. This is not critiquing tools itself. It's literally just the messaging. Okay, so let's compare this to a like much larger company, ZoomInfo. I can't imagine anyone like not knowing, anyone in the B2B world anyway, not knowing what ZoomInfo is, but like maybe just give a brief summary.
Yeah, it's one of the only rev tech companies that had the successful IPO, honestly, when you think about it. No one else has had that big of an IPO. They've been around for, I don't even know, 20 years or something. They're massive.
Long time.
Company, as I said. Yeah. Started as a contact database and then expanded the products to help, this is in quotes, that's what they say on the website, to help go-to-market teams find, qualify, and reach the right companies and buyers. So it still is very much a data play, but they built a bunch of apps on top of that strong data set.
Right. Yeah, so much larger company, probably slightly different approach, requiring a slightly different target audience. So who would they be targeting that would be different than, or maybe expand beyond just the marketers?
Yeah, that's their challenge and opportunity at the same time. Everybody in the go-to-market org would be talking to them. Sales, marketing, RevOps. I believe there's a CS maybe component to the platform. I'm not even sure. So it literally is, a big platform or like Uber platform made of multiple sub-platforms for, anybody in go-to-market.
Yeah. Okay. And just for anyone who's following along, I think we're looking at whatever messaging they have on their website.
Correct.
So it's just zoominfo.com if anyone wants to look along with us. So talk through their messaging a bit, like what is it and what's working well?
Yeah. It's gold. So the header, the hero is on their homepage is the go-to-market intelligence platform. The go-to-market intelligence platform. I think what's working well is also what's not working. Like always, like these big companies, right? What's working well is that it is so vague that it actually applies to everyone and everybody. Yeah. And it's just a testament to the confidence that they have. It's like they don't really need to say much. It's like, we're ZoomInfo, we're the go-to-market intelligence platform. Drop that mic. Like, it's so simple, right? And I think that works in their case. They don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be all sophisticated. They don't have to find weird words like Mirage that a French person cannot pronounce. Like, it can be very like plain lingo. And I think that's a testament to their size and their kind of like self-confidence in a way. So that works.
I totally agree.
Yeah, you agree, what?
Yeah. But tell us more about what doesn't work. And I bet that'll resonate with me, given that I've worked at big enterprises that have had this kind of
I think
similar
what doesn't
challenge.
work is exactly what. Yeah, it's kind of what we just said. It's like it doesn't say anything. It's too vague, right? Like the sub, at least as of today, is ZoomInfo gives you high quality AI powered B2B data and sales intelligence. It's not finished. That helps your go-to-market teams find in-market buyers, build pipeline, and close deals faster.
Wow.
It's like literally the ultimate test. It's so much. It's such a mouthful. It's jargon after jargon word. And also, you could replace ZoomInfo by pretty much any other player in the same space. It would work with UserGems. It would work with Apollo and Clay and whatever, with Clay. So it's so generic. It lacks specificity. It lacks uniqueness. It doesn't have a hook. It doesn't have the villain and the problem statement. So yeah, that's the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
it works
So-
for them, but only because they're big and they don't actually need fancy stuff.
Right, exactly. They're kind of like riding on the halo effect of their established brand and their size, and they have so many products too.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for the PMM there? How can they, I guess, take it to the next level, or maybe elevate it a little bit, or what experiments could they run to see how they can improve?
Yeah. Well, first, I can relate. I can sympathize. But also, it's probably not one PMM. It's probably like 25 PMMs or something. I'm
Maybe
actually
more.
friends with the guy who used to run PMM and brand at ZoomInfo. It's
wow.
not there anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just hard because you're an established player. You're a public company. You cannot do crazy stuff. You have multiple buyer personas,
Yes.
multiple segments,
And multiple stakeholders. I think that's a big one
Stakeholders.
too. And they all want their hand in the messaging. It's just it's so hard. It's so
So
hard.
it just dilutes the whole thing because you want to please everybody. But
Yeah.
at least what I would hope they would consider would be just less jargon.
Yeah.
I actually did a little word cloud of their homepage, and I'm going to read the top 10 words I found
Yes,
in that word
please
cloud.
do. Yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Go to market, top one. Data, AI, pipeline, sales, intent, platform, connect, intelligence, automate. Those are the 10. Is there anything that doesn't sound cliche in there? Absolutely not. So just add one little thing or I don't know, but I
Those are
can't
all
deal
the
with that
classic
jargony stuff.
SaaS B2B tech buzzwords.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, ZoomInfo. We
Again,
we know
they're
that-
crushing it probably, so they don't
gonna
need
say,
to be fancy.
you're
It works.
obviously yeah.
Yeah.
I think something that I would do some experiments on if I were a PMM leader at ZoomInfo would be to lean back into maybe values of the company.
Yeah.
And the big picture, mission that we as a company are setting out to solve, and trying to do some narrative building around that, maybe run some focus groups or something. And I think maybe that's where I would try to do some experimenting on.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
sure they do
apparently
already.
they probably don't need to though.
That's the thing. You don't need to be fancy if you're so well established, right? So
I know.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
in some ways it kind of also helps us in PMM and in marketing remember that messaging is one thing and it's one lever, but it's not everything. You can be successful with sucky messaging. So
Yeah,
it's just
you can.
yeah, it's a bit of a
can.
humbling moment for all of us. But messaging
For sure.
it's important, but it's not all the things.
Yes. So we just looked at two vendors in the same, or at least a similar, big picture market category, and one very, very large company who's crushing it, and one small company who's also crushing it. So what's kind of the takeaway, I think, for a PMM or PMMs who are, I guess, thinking about positioning and messaging in in a market, based on what you saw today across both of these
at least
companies?
I would say that's kind of what we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Avoid the jargon, define your villain and your story arc, your obstacles, your hero, your outcomes, the end state, the bliss, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And probably measure. Back to the initial topic you and I just discussed, just iterate, measure. Step 6 is never-ending feedback loop. Do some testing. I'm sure a lot of them are doing that. And
Totally,
tweak
I'm
over
sure.
time. Yeah.
And we also didn't look at specific product pages, which I think PMMs probably have more control over. So it could be that those ones are also way stronger than actually their homepage, which sometimes happens.
Homepage messaging is
It's
the worst.
notoriously hard. It's
That's
so
the worst thing
hard.
ever. So yeah.
Well, shout out to UserGems and ZoomInfo, PMMs.
Yes.
We feel for you. It's tough out there doing messaging, but you guys have found a recipe that works for you. But let us know if you like these ideas. I'm curious if you have been working on some of this already and where we might be able to learn more. All right. So, Julien, one thing that I like to do on this podcast is make some space for gratitude. So with that, I want to bring us to my gratitude moment. And because in product marketing, none of us get here alone. We're all learning from each other and building on each other's frameworks and playbooks, like I'm sure like hundreds of listeners are going to do with the playbook that you shared today. So before we wrap up, I want to say a genuine thank you to you for taking so much of your precious time to help prepare for this episode and obviously record and share your expertise. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. And I'd love to turn it around to you. Who are maybe some PMMs who have helped shape your career and really brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to pick maybe 2-3 people. 2 of them are mentors. I wouldn't be where I am today without them. But then when you do gratitude, oftentimes you take a look at like those mentors and more senior people, but I actually want to express gratitude towards people who have been on my team. And because I wouldn't be a leader today without them in a way, right? So the first one is Andy Savitz. He was my CMO at my first company, my first tech company, that is, back in the days, 2000, I don't even remember, 2012, 13.
Your early PMM days.
Yeah, I had no idea how to spell PMM. I was an SE back then. I was coming from Paris and I had no idea what was going on. And so he took me under his wings and he's a great dude. Although it's been a while, we haven't talked. So Andy Savitz is one. The other one is Stephanie Buscemi, who really took a bet on me when she hired me at Salesforce back in 2015. So it's been 10 years this year. Then she moved up the ranks and became one of the most amazing CMOs I've worked with at Salesforce.
That's awesome.
She's the best. These are mentors. And then, as I said, people who were on my team, like direct reports, I've been blessed to be at these destination companies. And so attracting world-class PMMs have been easier for me. So I feel very privileged. And some of these people I've worked with multiple times now. They would, follow me or I would follow them. So Ryan Bohm has become a friend. She was my first PMM hire at Gong. And then she joined my team at Clari. Victoria Chornova was also my first PMM hire at Gong, same day as Ryan. She's now with OpenAI. She leads PMM there. So yeah, we have those. I'm grateful for these people who helped me be a better manager, a better CMO, and who stayed friends with me this whole time. Grateful for that.
I love that. You're so lucky. You've had some incredible mentors and teams, and it says something when you work with someone who wants to follow you to your next company and vice versa.
Exactly.
So you're so lucky to have had that. Okay, my last question for you. Where else can we access your expertise? Is it best to just reach out on LinkedIn?
Yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. I post about once a day. Sometimes it's funny, quirky, silly little dad jokes, and sometimes it's a little more profound and frameworky. And I hope you can find joy and learnings in some of that stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julien. And thank you, PMM listeners, for coming on this adventure with us today. I hope this episode leaves you with inspiration to take with you on the next step in your own journey.